Good morning. We are going to see the last part of this unit, Thermodynamics 2. In this, we will deal with the Nernst distribution law. What are its limitations? Then, how the distribution law changes its form whenever there is a change in the molecular state. Then, we are going to study the Henry's law. After this, we will determine the equilibrium constant from the distribution coefficient, and we will see how the extraction is carried out. We will see different application of the distribution law. Now, if we take two immiscible solvents, suppose solvent A, solvent B, these are two immiscible. If we take this in a beaker, they form separate layers. When any solute X, if we distribute it, if it is added, it gets distributed or partitioned. We can call it as a distribution or a partition between the two solvents. Molecules of X pass from solvent A to B and simultaneously from B to A, and a dynamic equilibrium will exist between them. What happens at equilibrium? At equilibrium, the rate at which molecules of X passes from one solvent A to B or from B to A, that will be balanced at equilibrium. So we can say that concentration of X in solvent A to the concentration of concentration of solute X in solvent B, this ratio is constant, known as Kd. This distribution ratio or partition ratio, that means distribution coefficient or partition coefficient, the ratio of concentration of the solute in two immiscible solvent, this is always constant. This is the statement of Nernst distribution law observed by Nernst, that when the solute is distributed between two immiscible solvents, then the ratio of distribution in the two solvent will be always constant. Now, we have to solve the problem on this also. Suppose the ratio in one solvent, concentration in one solvent Kd is given, we can find out the concentration under the solvent, or we can find out from C1 and C2 Kd, vice versa. There are so many numericals which are given in the notes also. Now we will see how the solubility is also applicable with the distribution law. When a solute is taken with the two non-immiscible solvents, again, two non-miscible means immiscible solvents, at equilibrium what happens? Both the solvents are saturated with the solute. Since the solubility also represents the concentration, we can write down Kd is equal to C1 upon C2 or S1 upon S2, where S1 and S2 are the solubilities of the solute in the two solvents. Thus, knowing the value of distribution coefficient Kd, the stability of solute in one of the solvent, we can calculate the solubility of the solute in the second solvent. Just like concentration, we can find out concentration in one solvent. Likewise, we can find out the solubility. So this is as good as the solubility law. We can solve the problem on this also. Now this is the explanation of the distribution law. This is an equilibrium law. Nernst distribution law is the equilibrium law. When the distribution of solute X has reached the dynamic equilibrium, the rate R1 at which molecule X passes from solvent A to B, it is proportional to the initial concentration C1 in A. The rate R2 at which these molecules in solvent B moves to solvent A, proportional to C2 concentration in solvent B. At equilibrium, both these rates are equal. That means this. Suppose K1 which changes to this form. This K1 upon K2 constant, proportionality constant, comes to the new constant Kd. We call it as a distribution law. So this is Nernst distribution equation. What are the limitations of this Nernst distribution law? The Nernst distribution law holds good if there are certain conditions, that it is at constant temperature. The temperature should be kept constant throughout the experiment. Same molecular state means the molecular state of the solute should be same in both the solvent. The law will not hold good. That means C1 upon C2. It will not good if there is association or dissociation of the solute. There should be some modification in that. Only C1 and upon C2 will not work. Equilibrium concentration. The concentration of the solute are noted after the equilibrium has been established. Then the dilute solution. The concentration of solute in the two solvents should be low. That law will not hold good if the concentration are high. Means this law is applicable for dilute solutions only. Non-miscibility of the solvent. We have taken that the two solvents are immiscible. They should be non-miscible. The two solvents should be non-miscible or very slightly soluble. The extent of mutual solubility remains unaltered by the addition of solute. It should not be changed. So these are the limitations of the distribution law. Now, if we take the thermodynamic consideration of the distribution law, then we know we have derived this in the first unit. Mu is equal to mu10 plus RT ln A, where mu10, mu20 are standard chemical potential. For any system, suppose iodine is taken in water and CCl4 like this for any system. A1, A2 are the activities of the solute. Solute is iodine and the two solvents are water and CCl4. At equilibrium, what happens? Mu1 is equal to mu2. That means this is equal to this. If we take the difference, we come to this. What happens at constant temperature? These are also constant. R is also constant. So finally we follow A1 upon A2 is constant. What is this activity? That is constant. So this is just another form of distribution law. Just we have seen C1 upon C2. We have seen S1 upon S2. Likewise, this is thermodynamically A1 upon A2. So the law is valid. Now we will see the different cases when the solute shows some changes, and we will see how the distribution law works. Suppose the case when the solute undergoes association. The solute, it is undergoing association. Suppose the solute is present as X in solvent A. There is no change in the state of X in solvent A. But in solvent B, the N molecule of X are associating to form XN. Just like polymerization type, they are forming XN. Association or polymerization like this. Now, so some molecules are present in A, some in B, and some molecules are associating. Suppose C1 is the concentration of X in solvent A, C3 is concentration of X in B, and C2 is the concentration of XN. Now we have to apply the laws. Distribution law, when applied, we have to take this and its X means C1 upon C3. C3 is concentration of X. So concentration of X in first solvent, concentration of X in another solvent, C1 upon C3. That is the distribution law KD. But here some chemical equilibrium is also occurring. This one NXXN. So we can apply law of mass action here. Law of distribution law is applicable along the phases, and law of mass action is applicable along this equilibrium, chemical equilibrium. So along this chemical equilibrium, what happens? Kc, it will be X to the power N upon Xn along this equilibrium. What is the concentration of X in B? It is C3. So C3 to the power N. And what concentration of Xn is C2. This we are taking A of solvent B because this equilibrium, this chemical equilibrium exists in solvent B. So that's why along solvent, in solvent B, C2 and C3. C2 concentration of this. C3 concentration of some X molecules. So we can write down this. Now, if we take its nth root, we can get this expression. Now, where this expression, where this and this, these two expressions. Both the expressions contain C3, which we can cancel. That's why for cancelling the term C3, we will divide these two expressions. All these terms are the constant terms KD, KC. That's why we can consider it as a again new constant K. So we reach to the distribution constant sum K is equal to C1 upon nth root of C2. N is the degree of association which can be calculated. Suppose it forms trimer, then it will be 3 cube root. If it is dimer, square root. If it is as it is, then C1 upon C2 like this. So suppose the molecule is undergoing association, then also we can successfully implement the distribution law, but with certain changes. We can't take C1 upon C2, we have to take C1 upon nth root of C2, whatever may be the association depending on that degree. Now how to calculate this value of n? There are different methods. First is hit and trial method, that is simplest method. Such type of problems also come in the exam. Concentration in two solvents are given and you have been asked that n. What you have to do? Simply take the ratio of C1 upon C2. See it is if it is constant. If it is not, then see C1 upon nth root of C2. If it is constant, then n is equal to 2. If not, then see C1 upon cube root of C2. If it is constant, n is equal to 3 and like this. That's why it is hit and trial method. You just have to try again and again till you get this constant value. When you get the constant value, the related value of n is the degree of association n. Second is logarithmic method. In logarithmic method, this we know, we take the expression can take this form. We find out the log and set these values. Now, from this value, we can calculate if we know the two concentrations, we can find out this n. And this is direct logarithmic method. Now, when the solute undergoes dissociation, and we should know here C1, C1 dash, C1, C2, C1 dash, C2 dash. These four values should be known. Or another is a graphical method. Again, just like that, graphical method. Taking the graph. Here we have to plot like this. We will get a straight line, but for this we need different values of C1 and C2. Then we have to take the plot of log of C1 versus log of C2. We will compare it as a y is equal to mx plus c. This is intercept and this is slope 1 by m. From the slope we can find out the value of n. And the value of Kd can also be calculated by this method. This is a graphical method. So generally the problem appears on this method in the exam, hit and trial method. Some problem we have incorporated in our notes also. Now there is another case when the solute undergoes dissociation. Just now we have seen the case when the solute undergoes association, joined together, but now here the solute is dissociated into A and B. Again we will see that there is no change in first solvent, but in another solvent it is dissociated. Suppose C1, it is the concentration of X in solvent A. C2 is the total concentration of X, dissociated and undissociated. Now as this is dissociation, we have to apply this equation, degree of dissociation, initially 1, 0, 0, then at equilibrium 1 minus X, X, X. Hence, the concentration of undissociated molecule will be equal to C2 times 1 minus X. So Kd will be equal to what? This concentration upon undissociated this concentration, that means C2 1 minus X. That means C1, that is concentration in solvent 1 upon this concentration of undissociated in solvent 2. Means the C1 and upon C2 will not work. If it undergoes dissociation, we have to find out the degree of dissociation and accordingly the equation will take this form. If by chance solute undergoes dissociation in both the solvent, then we have to consider the degree of dissociation in both the solvent and this equation will be modified like this. Now Henry's law, we'll see it is also the form of distribution law. How? Henry's law states that at constant temperature, solubility is proportional to the pressure. Means mathematically, constant temperature, this solubility means its concentration proportional to the pressure. K is Henry's constant. Let C1 be the concentration of gas in phase B, C is in A, so C1 upon C2. This is C1, C2. Now, we know that molar concentration of gas is proportional to the pressure. K proportional to this. So this is nothing but the Henry's law. So like distribution law, Henry's law also holds good for dilute solution of gases when they do not react with the solvent. If mixture of gases is in contact with liquid, the partial pressure of individual gas, not their total pressure, it determines the mass of gas dissolving. In each case, solubility is proportional to partial pressure. Now, suppose the solute enters into the chemical composition with one of the solvent. Now again we have to apply the law. Suppose alpha is the concentration of solute X in one of the solvent in which it does not undergo any chemical change. C2 is the total concentration in second solvent, and like this. Here what is happening? It is forming a complex molecule. This solute forming complex molecule with solvent. Up till now we have seen that solute itself is dissociating, but now here solute is reacting with solvent, forming some complex with the solvent. Let alpha is the fraction of the solute that enters into the chemical composition. The concentration of uncombined solute molecule is C2 1 minus alpha, and complex molecule is just like this. And concentration of complex molecule will be C2 alpha. So the ratio will be C2 alpha upon this. So dividing both the equation, again we will finally reach, and simplifying some steps, we will reach to again C1 upon C2 as constant. Thus combination of the solute with one of the solvent does not make any change in the fundamental equation, except we have to change the numeric value of partition coefficient. It will be not simply as that of Kd, some different constant will appear. Now, there are different applications of the distribution law. Like we can determine the equilibrium constant in the complex form in this reaction. Equilibrium constant for this reaction, Ki plus I2 giving Ki3. In the first year, you have already seen the distribution coefficient of this. You have performed this practical also to find out the distribution coefficient of iodine. What you have did? Iodine shaken with water and some organic solvent, benzene, CCl4, toluene, something is provided to you. And concentration of iodine in both the layer you have determined with the titration against sodium thiosulfate solution. It comes out some constant. That is distribution coefficient. In second year, actually, you have to perform this practical. First, you have to determine the distribution constant, and then by the use of this distribution constant, you have to find out the value of this equilibrium constant. What we have to do? A solution of Ki. It is shaken with the iodine in bottle. Now, first what we have did? Iodine into solvent to determine this. But now in the second part we have to add Ki also in both the solvent. As soon as you add Ki, this reaction will take place along with this distribution. So we have to make use of this distribution coefficient, and when the reaction is taking place, we have to find out this equilibrium constant. So K will be equal to concentration of iodine in water to concentration of iodine in benzene. So we have to see Kc as equilibrium constant will be equal to this Ki3 divided by concentration of Ki divided by concentration of I2. We have to find out the individual values of Ki3, Ki, iodine, and we will reach to the value of Kc. Now, we will see how the solute has been extraction. There are different extraction techniques. If there can be the extraction with solvent, one step or multiple extraction, we will see that techniques. The most important application of distribution law, that is the process of extraction. It is used in the lab as well as in the industry. In the laboratory, it is frequently used. This is separating funnel. You should know that. You have used that. It is frequently used for removal of organic substance. Aqueous organic, 2 solvents has been given. 2 layers, you have been asked to keep it for some time. 2 layers will be separated. Then you separate 1 layer and you separate another layer. Like this. This you have used. If desired, many times this technique is useful in the extraction. It can be repeated many times. Because we know, suppose any solute is distributed in this, it will have some constant ratio. Kd, distribution coefficient, it has some constant ratio. So repeatedly if we use the process, the solute will distribute it repeatedly in the same ratio in the same solvent. So distribution ratio, generally it is in favor of organic solvent, so greater distribution can be achieved. But repeatedly if we do that, then multiple extraction will take place and maximum amount of substance can from aqueous phase can be performed. It requires 2 or more successive operation, multi-step extraction, or it is called as multiple extraction. The process of multiple extraction, it is carried out when total amount of given solvent in a single operation, we have to maximize that recovery. In such process, the aqueous solution is first extracted with the solvent in the separating funnel, and the aqueous layer from which some substance has been removed is then transferred to another funnel. This is shaken with second portion of the solvent. Similarly, the aqueous layer from the second extraction is then treated with the third portion of the solvent, and this goes on repeatedly. Now, why multiple extraction is more efficient? We can prove it mathematically also. Suppose we check the first extraction. In the first extraction, let x1 be the substance that is left unextracted, then x1 will be having this value. After second extraction, we will reach to this. After nth extraction, we will reach to this. So, like this is the solute which has been left unextracted. We are deriving the general formula. So after nth extraction, we will reach to this formula. Suppose instead of these processes, we are taking the extraction with whole in one step with lot of solvent. We will reach to this formula. This is the multiple extraction. This is single extraction. The difference between these two is multiple and single extraction. Now, since the quantity in this bracket, it is less than unity, so it is smaller than x dash. That means this will be smaller. As the value of n increases, this will be achieved more and more. Means number of extraction increased, the more and more solute will be extracted. This can be proved by taking any example, or it can be proved mathematically or by general equation also. What are the applications of distributions law? Now, first application is solvent extraction. Just we have seen that it is the process used for the separation of organic substances from aqueous solution. The aqueous solution is shaken with the immiscible organic solvent, ether, benzene, or like this, in a separating funnel, and the distribution ratio, if it is in the favor of organic solvent, most of the organic substances passes, into the ether layer, and the ether layer is separated and distilled off. Organic substance is left behind. The process of extraction is more efficient if the solvent is used in the number of small portion than in one lot. So we have already proved that multiple extraction is preferred to simple extraction. Now, partition coefficient. This is also one of the modern technique of separating the mixture into the small amounts of organic material. A paste of mixture is prepared. It is applied at the top of the column of the silica, soaked in water. Another immiscible solvent is allowed to flow. One layer is a mobile and second is a stationary phase. So the solute passed across the mobile phase and it can be separated through the column. The column can be continuously washed. Then the desilverization of lead that we have already seen in the previous talk. Now the confirmatory test for bromide and iodide. The salt solution, it is treated with chlorine water. What happens? Small quantity of bromine or iodine, it is liberated. The solution is then shaken with the organic solvent chloroform. On standing, chloroform forms lower layer. Free bromine or iodine being more soluble in chloroform concentrated into lower layer, making it red for bromine and violet for iodine. So we can test for bromine or iodine. We can determine the value of association, dissociation that we already discussed, solubility where we have confirmed with the Henry's law. In the formation of the complex also, we can use this law. Now again in the distribution indicator, this ratio is used. In iodine titration, the endpoints are indicated by adding the starch, which turns blue. So we can use distribution law. Few drops of immiscible organic solvent, if it is added to the solution, the bulk of any iodine passes into organic layer and imparts intense violet color to it. So this is all about our lecture. Now we will practice more. You have to practice more. You please go through the topics, read the topic carefully, and then we will discuss if there are any queries, and after that we will take a class test of this online test. If you have any difficulty, please feel free to talk with me.